Hi everyone, Alchemist Lion here, and today we are going to cover the AFK UFO base. And I would recommend probably not AFKing if you can avoid it, just because it is easier. And you can also save on a lot of structures, but this is part of the challenge. I wanted to be really underbuilt, as well as be able to AFK the UFO with some good old-fashioned damage. Let's begin. So to begin, my UFO amp is this amp right here in the southeast corner. And just with the amp placements I have, this is where it gets hit. It gets hit on wave 5, and then usually will get re-hit again on wave 29. However, it can also be hit on random waves. And it's not always on 29 that the same side gets hit. You just find that it will occasionally do that. And that's really where the challenge is. It's not so much surviving the UFO attack, it's having enough things left so that the second wave that gets hit here won't fail. And you have to do that for both sides because the UFO alternates. It can switch between sides at any point. There's no real rhyme or reason. So that is the struggles here. They spawn from the south, and the south likes to spawn all the way over here, and it will break this tile. As well, all the way across here, and even down in this little ravine area, down in here. For the east spawn, they're just kind of around the corner here. And they like to spawn kind of over here, all the way across to right here as well. It will break this wall occasionally, I've been finding. More so on the random spawns, but it does happen. And I have both setups. I'm still using the drops on one side, and I'm using the electric fields on the other. In all honesty, they're interchangeable. No one is probably better than the other. The electric fields I'm liking more right now simply because they have that 3x3 tile range. So a shot right here will affect every husk in the square radius, and that's really helpful. The damage here, because these are all durability, will be a little less, but you'll notice 170 uses, it's all durability. So I don't ever have to worry about running out. Where these drop traps, durability is much lower, and they're double reload, these ones. I recommend a single reload now just because that pushback isn't happening. But you're getting a smaller radius, although the tire drop will bounce and hit a few things in behind. You're not hitting as much, a little harder hitting, and it does do a little pushback, but not a lot. And that pushback could interfere with the freeze traps that I haven't changed over to my newer system with the spikes, retractable floor spikes, and then a floor freeze kind of at the end. It's just all floor freeze here. So there is still some modifications I could do. However, this is functioning quite nicely. I would say you're going to have like a 95 to 98% success rate, but 9 out of the 10 times, if you're not shooting the UFO down, there's no problems at all. If you run into a problem, it's going to be with like one husk, and I'll show you kind of my worst run on this, just so you can kind of see the worst case scenario, because if they blow up a whole section, there's a full empty pathway, and that's kind of what happened in that one demonstration. But even with that full empty pathway, they weren't able to kill it. So yeah, let's kind of start here on the east side, and then we'll move over to the west or the south side. So everything is kind of braced. As I said, some of this does break, so changing the braces might be beneficial. However, right now this is how I have it set up. And if you look at this cliff face where this ridge is going up, I have it one tile past that, kind of right in line with this cliff and pathway going down here. And some husks will like to veer over this way, which is why we have all this set up in addition to the spawns here just dropping down. It's good because with this being open, they will try to path down here and cut around the corner. And so we have everything set up to kill anything that's going to try to do that. Not a lot of husks will. Mostly just the small ones and the assassin ones, because again, I'm usually standing way up there. And then what I do is I have that kind of wrapping all around, one tile away from the back, just so you don't lose those darts ever. And these darts are all shooting anything that spawns in, and that's pretty critical for this. A back spawn kill is what makes this work so well. As well as we have the drop traps kind of one tile from the back cliff outwards, and it's set up into 3 rows kind of everywhere they spawn. You'll probably end up losing the first row or so with the UFO shooting, especially if it shoots in this front row, but you don't lose all of them, so you always have spawn killing going on. And as I said, that's pretty critical. Everything else in the middle, if you're not shooting the UFO, you can count on it possibly being broken. This way it's set up, and I'll kind of show you how I'm doing it, is that if a UFO shoots anywhere, even in the worst spot possible, it has to do 2 shots to kill everything in that row. And that's the goal, is that the UFO has to use, it does about 8 to 9 shots, and you have to make sure that those 8 to 9 shots can't get rid of everything, and that's what this is doing. So you'll notice that everything is braced on 2 sides. So this one is braced here, and then it's kind of braced over and around, and braced all the way across. These ones are separated far enough away. They're not walking, so I don't need ceilings over here, but this is just to shoot them as they're walking by. The only way these get shot is if a UFO wastes a shot over here, or if it kind of shoots right over here, but even then, you still have all this over here in that one shot that's doing damage on the sides. And I'm kind of carrying that all the way forward. These squares I have kind of spaced out, so all the floor tiles, especially in this little area here, they're all kind of spaced out one way. So the only way is if a UFO wants to get rid of it, it has to kind of shoot right in the middle here to get rid of all that stuff, but in doing so, it's leaving a lot on the sides. And now it's going to take 3 shots to break that tunnel down versus just 2. And I'm carrying that whole strategy forward, and I'm just throwing whatever damage I can, and I'm trying to alternate the traps just to give myself the best mixed chance of having things left over that are still going to do damage. Most ceilings are going to be gone, but the thing is I'm trying to lure the UFO into shooting these areas. And then up here I kind of have the same thing. So anywhere the UFO shoots, unless it's right in the middle, it's not going to clear out everything in one shot. And even then, if it does that, it's basically wasting shots and giving the chance for this stuff to survive. Or if it's focusing over here, this stuff will survive. 8 shots does clear out quite a bit. I have a picture or two of some of the ones that I've done, just to show you what some of the after effects will look. So I'll kind of post those down after I'm gone through the whole tunnel here. But this is it. It just is trying to ensure that the UFO can't clear everything out. And the best way to do that is this staggering technique, very similar to how White Streams has his AFK UFO Entwine, but instead of doing a cycling thing, throwing it at the bottom, where we're in Plankerton, I can get away with this. You can't get away with this Entwine. But Plankerton, you have some grace. And so right here, we have this all set up, and again, one space, everything's kind of spaced out, and then I still have stuff up here for the other amp that the UFO will register. It does register this one occasionally for this side. And everything's a fail-safe, so if they do break the block off, they'll go up here. If they don't break the block off, then I don't have to worry if anything up here got shot. And then we have darts on the end, kind of right here, close to the amp. As we're going down, again, everything's spaced out, but then we have kind of fail-safe shooter walls everywhere, trap ceilings, and everything's reinforced in multiple spots to try to alleviate if the UFO shoots in one spot, it's not going to break the entire chain of traps across the way. And all the way down to here. And this is the amp, and the amp is the most fortified place. So the amp has the whole back opening, because what I'm essentially trying to do is get them just a path over to this. So the ones all coming down here are going to divert over, but you have all these darts over here, all these electric fields, as well as when they're path down, they're getting hit with those darts, and depending on what survives, these dynamos, darts up here, I find this one right here is pretty good, and anything coming here is getting hit with darts and all the way down. And this is Plankerton, so they die if they get hit by traps pretty much. The only things getting through is when traps are kind of waiting for their reload. And then right here you have the 3 impact 4 freezes to kind of stall them at the end, and all this damage to kill them before they get around to this side. Do things get through? Yes. Some waves more so than others. I've had waves where nothing gets through. I've had waves where it breaks like just slightly. I have waves where it's basically right to the cusp, final sliver. but I'm really trying to test it. The one I'm going to show you is basically that cusp to the sliver. I had to shoot one flinger bow. That was the only action I had to do, and that was probably one of my worst ones, and it's purely, as I said, because they cleared an entire path. So there was a free clearing between spawn and the amp, and it was just the spawn and amps doing their stuff, and it still worked. If you have enough, that's another thing here with the UFO. If you have enough in the middle, the tunneling system, that's where the UFO is going to target. The UFO will avoid shooting spawn for the most part if there's stuff in the tunnels, and it won't shoot towards the amp unless there's nothing in the tunnels or at spawn. That's kind of what I've been seeing with this. I mean, it is epic, and there could be things I haven't seen yet, but that's what I've been noticing so far. And that's how it's set up. Now this is all set up, again, heavy artillery and the thing. Everything is braced multiple spots, so I use a lot of these floor braces just to kind of hold things in place so that if it is being shot at, it's not going to drop, as well as I have reinforcements here at the least likely to be destroyed locations. And then if we go over here on this side, you'll see everything is fortified heavily at the amp. And then we'll go up to this spawn, and you'll see it's the exact same thing. I basically took each side and I followed this whole strategy for each spot. So right here you have your spawns with your darts. Everything is reinforced multiple spots so it doesn't just fall. Because really, if you lose your spawn, you lose this pretty easily. You don't have to be super far back on this either, but you probably could. I just found that most of the spawns are going to come up in here. Anything that's here kind of is zapping forward anyway into this location. Then from here, we have this setup because it's a bit more open here. You can get away with a lot more of this style setup. So almost very much like White Streams, but I have dynamos and floor freezes. I would probably switch these to spikes now at this stage, but right now I'm using the floor freeze, the free impact. I think these ones would be durability and impact at the end actually, but yes. Dynamos, all staggered. So if the UFO shoots, it's only knocking one square off, and then it has all this left to still break. And it's only going to be breaking one square at a time, and if it hits here, the dynamos are still in existence. So there's lots of fail-safes, so no matter what the UFO does, there's still more to shoot. Everything is supported multiple ways. So I've chained this with this amp right here. My kind of like, for the south one, I have it and then if you look, I've connected all the way across every other tile. So there's no place that a UFO can just knock everything down with one shot. Even if it shoots in the middle, the ends are all supported, and then we still have darts down here doing their thing. Everything is staggered across. I haven't even upgraded that. Same over here. Everything is staggered. So if they're shooting this stuff off to try to break this down, they're leaving this. And that's the whole thing, is just to kind of keep it busy and leaving lots left over even after it's done its destruction. Oop. I gotta get my sword out to move around. Alright. And then again, I'm alternating the traps a lot. So if I do an electric field, I'm switching it to a zapper, just to try to get the best variety possible. And then everything's staggered, so every other place is basically a hole in the sky. And I've tried to alternate where possible, just to make sure that it takes the UFO even longer to break. And then up here, just because if this is broken, they will come up here. So everything's set up, so it's all heavily blocked off. But if it is broken and they manage to get up here, there is, again, on each side, unless the UFO is shooting in the middle, but even then if it does, the darts are still existing. There's nowhere where the UFO is going to destroy everything, even if it just targets this one way, before they can get up and over here. And then if they do, it's very heavily defended on this side. And I'm just pathing along. I'm just kind of walking through the tunnel systems. One of the things, you'll probably get away with a lot less structures if you're willing to shoot down the UFO and just using one of the other amps as a basis for this. There's lots of areas like right up in here where you can path and only have like a 5 tunnel system and probably save half the builds. This is built this way purely for the UFO. It was a kind of a challenge just to see if I can get it done. I had an overbuild at one stage that was AFK in the UFO, and I figured if I could do it in overbuild, I should probably be able to do it when I'm underbuilt like this. And that is that. What I'll do is I'll show now a clip of it working. I'll show the UFO doing the destruction, so you can kind of see how the UFO is acting. And then I'll show you the wave. Like I said, it almost broke, but it didn't. So, yay. But yes, that is AFK UFO in a nutshell. Yeah, so apparently I suck at recording, and I missed the whole wave 29. I got like this setup of like 28 ending into 29, and don't have a couple hours to sit through to show a partially good run, because next one probably will be better. But at the same time, I mean, this system works. You might occasionally have to shoot a husk, possibly, at the end. But like I said, 9 times out of 10, you are going to go through without having to do any work at all. But I did find a few extra ones of the UFO shooting down the bases, and you can see what's left over. And the main thing is there's spawn, there's stuff at the amp, and there's a few things scattered around the whole middle parts, and that's enough to hold everything back in Plankerton. Alright, so here's the UFO down here, and we're just going to take a look at the damage that it's causing. Alright, so here's the UFO. Plankerton wave 5. And if we look down here, here's what it's doing. So we still have a bunch of our tunnel system. They broke more things in the back this time. It's always a little different, I'm noticing. And so when it shoots, there's still things to hit and kill. If they drop down here, darts all the way through, and then we still have all the spawn, which you'll notice they're not getting away from. And that one shot cleared out very little. I'm going to try to record this a few times just so you guys can see the different places and how there's a lot left over. Alright, 50 seconds left. Oh, nice. Let's see, there's little ones there. Holy, he's running fast. I swear they speed up sometimes. But yeah, so even though you might see them trickling through, everything here just kills them. Where's the UFO hitting now? Right in the middle there. Nice. Alright, so we still have all these darts on this side. Everything from the back spawn area. And then all these darts along here. We're getting one more off? Yeah, they got one more off, but didn't do much. And that is the UFO, wave 5. So you see we still have a bunch of traps left, and this is kind of how it works. And whatever escapes up here, down here in these traps, these are enough to get them. So when they come in here, if these darts don't go off, they'll activate in here and die. And same thing over here. Most times I find that the husks come this way though, just because it's opened up in the computer systems right there. Well, the UFO is hit, and we still have a full spawn damage area, and all along their pathing, lots of traps to damage them, and then a fully covered amp still. Well, that is it for this video. As you see, I'm on the UFO right now, just having a good time. I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoy these videos, or at least the information I'm given. That's the key, to sharing the information. And just seeing what fun things we can make possible with this. And this is my Plankerton in its glory. And just to show, this is the UFO doing its thing. We have about a minute left, and there is lots to still kill them. But yeah, appreciate your time. Thank you for watching. And as always, have yourself a great day. Catch you around.